Good evening. I have 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David.
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean.
Here.
Ms. Emily Hamburg.
Here.
Mr. Tom Schmidt.
Here.
And Mr. John Welch.
Present.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have Father Terry Hedrick with Church of the Resurrection on 37th Street to lead us in prayer. Father Hedrick.
Let's pray. Holy Father, as the city council gathers together this evening, we pray as we look to you in the name of your Son Jesus. We ask that you would be with us by your Spirit now as you promised. We thank you again that you are a good and gracious God, and mercy and steadfast love. We pray especially this night for the city of Bel Aire, also for Mayor Jim Benage and the city council members, and also all the leaders of this community, especially all of our first responders, law enforcement, EMS, and firefighters. We pray that you will reveal this evening the knowledge of your will, our wisdom, and spiritual understanding to the council as they desire to make fruitful and genuine decisions for us as a community, under your care. Anoint them with the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, and with steadfast purpose for the common good. They may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all the people, in the Bel Aire community. Grant that they may love mercy, do justice, and walk humbly with you. And so we ask all these things, Heavenly Father, in the strong and wonderful name of our Savior Jesus, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, both now and forever. And the council together with me said, Amen.
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 Thank you. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the American flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is determine agenda additions. Do we have any additions to make to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move on to the consent agenda. So the consent agenda includes minutes from the regular meeting held on December 3rd. And 2 businesses have applied for renewed of their cereal malt beverage licenses. Seiko LLC, doing business as Maria, if I'm saying it correct, ramen and sushi, and DJ Retail LLC, doing business as Dollar General. And these approvals are also included in the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David,
make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
motion by Mr. David, second by Mr. Schmidt. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. On this consideration of the appropriations ordinance, this appropriation ordinance encompasses expenses from November 27th through December 10th, and total expenditures amount to $784,855. Of the reported expenses, $183,749 are infrastructure costs for new developments, and of course, those costs are paid through special assessments. Any question or discussion about the appropriation ordinance?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean,
I move we approve appropriation ordinance number 24-23.
Second.
motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Ms. Hamburg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. The city requested appearances this evening. We have Mr. Jesse Miller, which is Bel Aire's representative to Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 Steering Council. So Mr. Miller is here to provide us with an update. So Mr. Miller, if you'd approach the podium and please speak into the microphone so that people that aren't here can hear. because some people do actually listen to this on YouTube, Facebook. I don't know where they listen to it, but they do listen to it. So thank you.
Can you guys hear me okay? Well, good evening. Thank you for having me here, Mr. Mayor and council, men and women. So I am new as a board member for the steering council for Sedgwick County Fire District 1. Mayor Benaj requested that I appear here. If you guys have any questions or concerns, just let me know. I know that recently, I forget the gentleman's name and I apologize, but he came around with the new Sedgwick County Fire Code. Let me know that you guys would have already received this. Is that correct?
I'm not aware if we have, but the staff would have gotten that.
You have.
Yeah.
Staff is in receipt of it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Might be Mr. Anen.
I'm sorry.
Was that the chairman, Mr. Anen? I think it's his name. I can't remember.
Believe so.
Maybe.
So this is my first time, if you guys can't tell. But like I said, I've appeared at 4 meetings since September, I believe so, 3 or 4 meetings, just a handful. Very informative, very unique experience. I'm enjoying it a lot. I can kind of go down a list, but I'm not sure where I'm at on the agenda to ramble. So if you guys have any questions, just kind of let me fire away. And if I don't know the answer, I will connect with you tomorrow as promptly as I can to give you an answer on what you may have questions or concerns regarding. Anyone?
Just give us
Okay,
highlights
all right.
of
Well, we're
what you've been
working
talking
on,
about.
or I should say, the fire district is working on our actual firehouse. I'm hearing that there are concerns with it, that there's water that gets into the basement. I'm sure you guys know that this gentleman
Only been there
gets
for
water.
30 years. Why are they concerned now?
Right. So we're kind of top of the list on getting that approved. I forget the acronym, but it's being placed into the budget. Ted, you may be able to help me out with that. But it's being placed into the budget to basically remodel and move further east and north as we expand our city so that the new firehouse can appropriately respond to emergencies. They also went to North Carolina when the big flood happened in Tennessee. Right. Yeah, and that was a unique experience to see those pictures and hear some of them talk about how they have gained so much knowledge from FEMA as well. So just all around, just a great experience. I'll make sure that at the next council meeting that I have some things that appropriately apply to our city and how it's going to impact and affect us. But I would say for now, that's what I have. Again, unless you have any questions or concerns that I can reach back out to you regarding.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Schmidt.
Okay, thanks. So one question I had was in relation to the fire station that we have, how close are we to the limit on how many people can be in the city before another fire station has to be built? Are we close to that? Or are we a long ways away? Or do they expand the facility? Do you have any insights on that?
Is it Councilman Smith's?
Yes.
So Councilman Smith's, I can get you an answer on that tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I don't.
Yeah, I'm just
shoot
curious
from the
where
hip,
we're
but I
at.
can- Yeah.
Because we keep growing and getting bigger, and I'm wondering, do we need more support, or is it still adequate?
So slight insight on that, because I served on this before he did,
Okay.
is that because of mutual aid agreements with Wichita, this fire station has probably more calls into Wichita than any other Sedgwick County fire station, because they're only a mile from Wichita.
True.
And there are no fire stations in that area. Wichita has no fire stations in that area. So
It's true, not on this direction.
So they respond to a lot of Wichita fire calls, but they have a mutual aid agreement with Wichita, and they do that with all the fire stations services within the county, and they back each other up. So it's pretty even balance when you look at the total of all the calls that they answer versus calls that cities answer for the Sedgwick County. It's pretty balanced, but it seems like we get a lot, but it's not really overly balanced overall. So, but they've been talking about this before, so I'm glad to see they're actually looking at maybe that's a CIP budget. I don't know if that's
the acronym.
Okay,
Yes,
capital
sir.
improvement
That's the
budget that
acronym.
they're looking at. Yeah. So Sedgwick County will start their budget process in February. So they started earlier than we do. Yeah. Okay.
And another concern I had
Mhm.
was when there's a a fire in Bel Aire. And then it may be a little more than the Sedgwick County Fire Department can handle. Sometimes they're reluctant to utilize resources from the city of Wichita because of the cost structure. They get charged. And so I have been involved in situations where the city vehicle and their fire truck with a ladder and everything was just sat there and idled because the county didn't want to engage the city to help them out. So, and I don't know if that was a good decision from the homeowner, probably not. From the county, I mean, for them, it didn't make a difference, but it sure made a difference to the homeowner because they had a total loss. Just the front face of the house was left. Everything else was gone. And I just questioned because I saw that truck sitting there for quite a while. I didn't understand why they didn't do anything. And then I heard there was a jurisdiction issue. And once they tell them to help, then there's a charge that comes across. So I hope that issue is not still a problem, but it definitely has been in the past. So anyway, that'd be something I'd be interested in to know.
Yeah.
Are they reluctant? It sounds like they're calling Sedgwick County often to go into Wichita. You would hope there'd be some way they'd be less reluctant to say, hey, give us some help here so we can get this put out quickly.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
I can appreciate that question. I can tell you that from the time that I've been on the board, I've actually heard them kind of going above and beyond to service other surrounding communities, I should say. Cheney, there's some other ones you can probably kind of help me fill those in, but they've had some other ones where there's not a fire department there and they go above and beyond to make sure that those citizens are taken care of. But I can appreciate
Thanks.
what you're saying, but I haven't heard anything in regards to that.
I'd be interested in knowing about that too, because I've never heard about that. Is that a recent event or? has it been
this was
some
quite a
time?
while ago.
Okay. So
Um,
maybe some changes happened, but
I'm
who knows?
hoping,
We'll
I am
find
hoping
out.
things have changed.
Yeah, we'll find out.
My perception of it would be that everyone that has a hand in the process, whether it's dispatch, the actual boots on the ground, or it's kind of one of those things, even now, where you kind of feel like you're in a room of people that are just really, going above and beyond their call of duty, so to speak.
Okay, thanks.
So I can appreciate that, but I haven't heard anything. And we get these emails. I can kind of nerd out about that if you guys want, but these are emails on high level calls that they're getting and just various, parts of the district. Response time, detailed message on what was going on, just everything. But I haven't heard anything like that. But I can follow up with you in regards to that.
All right, thanks.
Tom, I can appreciate that comment too, because with the amount that insurance rates are increasing, I can imagine that total loss wasn't something the insurance company wanted either, and that those rates are going up because of things like that and other things. But
Sure.
I appreciate you bringing that comment up. I think that's worth investigating.
Sure.
Mr. David, did you have some questions?
You started on it, but how big is our district? Is it just Bel Aire? And then how many districts are there in the county?
I can follow up with you on that, Councilman David, tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't have that number or amount of counties off or amount of communities off.
District 1 is just mainly Bel Aire. It doesn't go clear to.
So-
Actually, District 1 is the entire county. It's
Like Cheney.
it's kind of weird that they call it District Number 1 because it's the only district.
It's the only one.
It's the only one. Yeah.
Oh, it's the only one. Wow.
The district.
They're waiting for number 2.
I guess. I don't know.
Okay,
That's a great question.
that gives you an idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else with questions or concerns?
That's just the district. That's not the station.
No,
Don't
it's not the
confuse the
station.
two. So,
I understand.
okay.
The station has kind of its general area, but and I think it goes all the way to Butler County and Harvey County. But
Yeah, I think it's got all northeast
Yeah.
Sedgwick County.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I was curious about, I know you're new to the council, but I know this is fairly new within the past few years that they've started this steering council.
Mhm.
What are they bringing to you guys? Like, I know the district is gone or is going to go on after the first of the year, 2 days. It's 2 days on and 3 days off with their schedule change. Are those the kind of issues that are coming to you, or is it more financial issues? What are you seeing in your first few meetings?
It's a great question. So we get a combination of a lot of things. So there's various PowerPoints and just handouts that I have at home where they are going through financials and letting us know different forms of equipment that they are investing in. Just a couple months ago, they brought to Sedgwick County basically like a financial plan to get more fire resistant undergear, and they were putting that in the budget, and also pay raises. So I mean, you get the full gambit of operations, but then you also get even when the firefighter a couple months ago passed away, so we were kind of hearing about how that took place and the operations and rules that they follow to make sure that that type of situation can be avoided. So you really get everything from top to bottom. Yeah.
So I guess, and that report will trickle down to you guys with the
It
fatal
does.
fire that they
Mhm.
presented yesterday at the county and city.
Everything.
Okay, gotcha. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So they don't pull any punches. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Miller? Well, thank you, and look forward to hearing more reports from you. So
Yes, sir.
I'd like to try to do this at least every other month, if you would, please.
I can come every month to
Okay.
get
Just let him know you need to be on the
Let the
agenda.
wife know and the 3-year-old baby daughter know, and we'll be here. But I appreciate you guys. In all sincerity, the next one that I come to, again, I will have an agenda of high level things that impact our community so that we're all on the same page about what exactly I'm listening to and in on.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Move on to citizen concerns. I have no card for citizen concerns. So is there any citizens that would like to speak? And I gather not, because I don't see everybody jumping up and saying they want to talk. So we'll move on to council member reports. Mr. Dean, we'll start with you tonight.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. First, I just wanted to thank all the staff and the chamber that helped put on the Christmas in Bel Aire on the 7th. I thought it was really well attended, very well done, and also thank the public works staff that put up the Christmas lights display. It looks great. Turned out great. On the 9th, I also attended the K254 corridor strategic planning meeting. We actually had a visit with KDOT on a presentation update that'll be given to our main corridor management on the finalization of the corridor management plan at our next membership meeting in January. So that went well. It's just to kind of get a feel for what that would look like. They also gave us an update on the next steps for Rock and Webb Road project. KDOT plans to put out the RFP for a study and preliminary design concept early next year. They said it would be pretty similar to what the corridor management plan study. The process would look very similar. It would be a little bit shorter in duration, about 12 months they estimated. It would have probably fewer public engagements, but they would still have several public engagements mixed in. They also indicated that the study would include looking at Rock, Webb, and connections to Greenwich Road. So pretty similar to what Ted has also informed us, but that was provided in the meeting as well. That's all I had. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Hamburg. Mix it up.
You are mixing up. I don't have anything there except I was driving over here tonight. Bel Aire looks really good. City Hall looks good, and a lot of people have put Christmas lights up this year. It's looking good. So that's all I had, Mayor. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Mr. David.
Other than a Merry Christmas to the staff and the council, I have no report. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Welch.
Same thing. Merry Christmas to everyone. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. That's my report.
All right. Mr. Schmidt.
Merry Christmas as well, and I have nothing to report.
Okay. Well, I have a shorter one than my normal, but it isn't short. So when I was first elected to city council, we had a moment of silent prayer at the beginning of each meeting. And while silent prayer is okay from time to time, when it's a norm for a city council meeting, it becomes a bit lame and lacking leadership and direction. So in 2018, Church of Resurrection was assigned a new pastor, Father Michael Shim. Having learned I was on the Bel Aire City Council, Father Shim asked if the city had pastor-led prayers at our city council meetings. I, of course, told them, no, we only had the moment of silent prayer. But that sparked the idea of why not pastor-led prayer. So I approached the mayor at the time, Mr. David Austin, and suggested that we put this together. And it appears that this was done in prior times, but was dropped due to a lack of pastors willing to help and some resistance from some city council members. I said, we need to look at reinstating this pastor-led prayer. And we did that, and it continues today. We currently have 5 pastors active in this ministry. They rotate leading the city council meetings in prayer. And this all came about due to Spark started by Father Shem. I tell this story because as some of you know, Father Shem has been battling cancer for the last 2 years. He passed away last Saturday. So please pray for Father Shem, his family, friends, and brother priest as they mourn his leaving this life. The vigil service will be at 6 p.m. on Sunday, December 22nd at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception of Mary in downtown Wichita. And his funeral will be Monday, December 23rd at 10 a.m., also at the Cathedral in downtown Wichita. On Tuesday, December 10th, I attended the WAMPO meeting. A proposal was made to extend the consulting contract for the Regional Transportation Plan, also known as bus system, another 6 months at a cost of $25,000. I was opposed to this as we already spent about $150,000 with this consultant and got very little for the value for that money. I felt we were wasting money with this consultant. As a compromise was made to extend the contract for 2 months at $0 to give the consultant a chance to redeem what he has done and to do and what we'll do for the extra money. So on Wednesday, December 11th, I attended the Utility Advisory Committee meeting, and it was good to see Art Tenbrink back after his long illness. The UAC held elections. Terry Ercolani was elected as chair. Art Tenbrink was as vice chair, and Antonio Kitt as secretary. Terry Ercolani presented some research he did on the water conservation plan. He found that Bel Aire's plan, updated in July of this year from prior year's plans, followed the recommendations of the state for these plans. It appears that our August plan, the one we currently use, has some shortcomings. He also researched what other communities are doing. He reviewed where we are today, recommended improvements were discussed, and Terry will draft a revised plan to present to the UAC in January. So a reminder of the CCUA board members and their alternates. This month's meeting is this Thursday, December 19th, here at City Hall. This was moved up a week since the 4th Thursday of December. This year is the day after Christmas, also known as Boxing Day. So I do hope everyone has a blessed Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 things to comment on. First, the last time we met, I had brought up the 2-lane left turn lane. One of the questions was if an individual leaves their neighborhood and they make a left turn, then they stop to pause at that 2-lane left turn lane. Is that lawful or not? So I spoke to some members of 3 different law enforcement agencies, and I went back to the statute, and it appears as though, yes, a vehicle can pull out of their neighborhood, pull into that 2-lane left turn lane and wait until they see a gap or that they can safely enter into traffic to proceed forward. So that was one question I received, and that's an answer. The second thing is I've received questions lately regarding unsafe or dangerous structures. So much so that at the next workshop in January, I'm going to give a presentation to council so you can hear more about it. But just to give a heads up to council and anyone listening, unsafe or dangerous structures, according to statute, some of the conditions which meet those are anything that affects dangerous or injurious to the health, safety of occupants of buildings. Such conditions can include defects, increasing the hazards of fire, accident, air pollution, light or sanitary facilities, disrepair, structural defects, uncleanliness, dead and dying trees, limbs, or anything else that could contribute to a blight to adjoining property. There have been many residents who have asked questions about this, especially for some homes that are getting older and perhaps the property owner doesn't have the funds to make those updates as necessary. That is what is included in statute. And what will be brought in front of you is information to let you know that as a council, there are certain things that can be done. Dangerous structures can be minimized or abated by making the appropriate repairs to the structure or by removal of the structure and making the site safe. If the landowner fails or refuses to make the repairs or remove the structure, an ordinance can be created which gives the city the ability, the authority to lawfully remove the structure and make the premises safe and secure. If the city causes the structure to be removed, the costs of the removal are the responsibility of the landowner. The city shall bill the landowner for the costs incurred for that removal. If it is not timely paid, which has occurred with other jurisdictions, the amount can be assessed as a special assessment against the lot and collected just as taxes as the same due to the property owner. Now, where the amount due, the city remains unpaid for 1 year. In those situations, it can be collected by the city as any type of personal debt from the property owner per statute. And then the last thing I was going to mention is this happens in many jurisdictions that even the Attorney General has made comments on this. One of the questions posed to the Attorney General was, does the city have the authority to repair a dangerous or an unsafe structure rather than removing it? The Attorney General said that the only authority that a city has regarding a dangerous or an unsafe structure was to initiate action to determine that the structure was dangerous or unsafe, and following the proper notice and the proper hearing, which is required by statute. In those situations, the city can order the structure to be repaired or removed. It was only when the owner failed to comply with the city's order to repair or remove that the city could then remove the structure themselves. And these are examples of what other cities are going through. They're relying on statute, they're relying on definitions, they're relying on a code enforcement officer to make those observations, make a report, and then bring it in front of council. So that's just a little bit of an update, but I will give you more in-depth knowledge at the workshop in January. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. One question would be, did I notice that repair by the city probably wasn't an option? It was only removal. Is that what I heard?
Repair is an option if the property owner does not comply and it continues to be unsafe or dangerous, then the city can remove it. But there needs to be a proper process of statute followed, such as a notice and then a hearing, so everyone can come forward.
This is a very slippery slope with a tornado. Because you go over to Andover, I drove over there. This was many months after, just to see. And several of the homes still had huge holes in the roof. Nothing's been done. So you can assume that those people had pretty much a crisis on their hands. Maybe they didn't have insurance, it's hard to say. So I mean, I could see what would be, the city would look really bad if they came in and start tearing down homes or, I mean, so I think you just have to be careful, put this in the light of what happens if a tornado hits. And then all these people that would be affected, we sure don't want to be this overreach of the government that just says, hey, if you don't get it done right away because you don't have money, too bad. I just think we have to be real careful in how can we help versus just add to the strife and stress to those families. So anyway, yeah, it's a difficult issue.
I know that Wichita has had a lot of problems with this and has actually looked to the legislature for some help, but I don't know if they've gotten any better guidance out of them.
Yeah.
So,
Those were all my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you. Move on to the city manager.
Just a
piggyback a little bit about every conference Maria and I go to has a session on dilapidated properties and how to handle them. And like you said, it is a hard problem that cities are dealing with throughout the state, throughout the nation it's much needed. But as far as my report goes, I kind of at the last council meeting of the year, I want to kind of go through some of our highlights of this year, and I think they're pretty astonishing. Construction of 5 new commercial buildings. People know that. 120 new housing permits. We lowered the mill levy. Completed the reconstruction of 53rd Street. We invested over $1 million in a maintenance project, microsurfacing project on our streets. We signed a new CCUA agreement. Furthermore, we installed new sewer meters in all our lift stations, which greatly improves our knowledge of the system. We stood up all the major modules of our new ERP system, and we'll continue on that. We made our first major investment in our park system. I was trying to think since I've been here. I know we've kind of spread some money around year after year, but what we did last council meeting, investing $126 million or $126,000 into a park, or just think of the last time we invested in equipment, upgraded equipment. It's been a while. The major investment in upgrading our public works facility, that those bids will come in at the end of this week, and we'll be acting on that in January 7th meeting. We worked with residents to conserve water in times of drought. Isley announced it'll move K through 8. That's a huge deal for a lot of families in Bel Aire. And I know we weren't directly tied in that, but I think our constant pressure throughout the years really helped with that decision. As far as staff transition goes, you all know I started at the beginning of this year. We have a new finance director, a new planning and zoning director, a new communication director. But what I'm more excited about is each one of those directors are asking every day the question, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing it this way? And I think that's a sign of a really good organization when we have so many whys going at the same time. That really helps us think and help us work through processes. PD is fully staffed right now. Public Works has completed more of those someone should do that tasks. I like to call that. If you look at Trib 7, it probably hasn't looked this good in years, and I give that all to Marty. Rec is booming, a lot of participation, a lot of programs going on. One of my highlights of this year is we've had our first all staff meeting that all 47 employees were there. So it surprises you. We're a 24/7 operation, but it's really hard to get all my staff in one location, and we did it this year. I was really proud of that. As we can say, a lot of changes that happened this year, but next year I'm really looking forward to building upon our improvements we've made. Continue to ask the question why, continue to build better services through technology, provide quality communications, provide decision makers with the support and data needed to make Bel Aire a better place. And that's where I really look forward to in 2025. I think 2024 is a great year. But as we go into the new year, I think we really are looking really strong and going to continue on our improvements in 2024. With that said, the only announcement I will make is tomorrow we're going to close City Hall from 11:30 to 1:30 for a staff Christmas party. We've done that for the past several years, but we've been noticing everybody and noticing the front doors. So usually we don't have an issue, but that's the other thing we're doing. So any questions happen to answer, but that's my report, Mayor.
Oh, I'm off. Okay. How's that? Is that better? All right. Had my microphone off. So move on. Ordinance resolutions and final actions. The first item is considering ordinance for annexing 3 tracts of land. So on October 23rd, 2024, the Sedgwick County Board of County Commissioners passed resolutions requesting 11 cities to annex certain roads right of way. Sedgwick County Resolution 23-2024 requests City of Bel Aire to annex certain highways. At the Bel Aire City Council meeting on November 14th, some council members shared concerns regarding the additional cost of road maintenance and whether Sedgwick County would enter into a shared road maintenance agreement. City Attorney Maria Schrock has provided a detailed report in your packet and is here to discuss her findings. I have attempted to have a discussion with City County Commissioners Ryan Beatty and Pete Meitner. Initially, Commissioner Chair Beatty was the only one corresponding with me on this issue, but last Friday he punted this to Pete Meitner, who we are actually in Pete Meitner's district. I have a meeting set up with Commissioner Meitner for 1:30 tomorrow to discuss the shared maintenance plan. I suggested we continue to table this item. I understand there's no legal avenue to stop this annexation from occurring. However, politically, not approving this today keeps this item on the radar of Cedar County Commission. We need to have that discussion, and I've been trying for a couple months, and now it looks like we have to be able to do that. So I do not know how that discussion will go, but I want to make every effort to get a long-term plan in place. So interested in any discussion from council members on this.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Sandberg.
I was just going to ask city attorney, if you hadn't had your meeting yet, my thought was kind of, I would like to table it. But what are your thoughts? I know from a statute standpoint, we don't have a way around this, but do you see any problem with us tabling it three weeks till our next meeting?
The next agenda item, which is the resolution declaring the entire boundary, that is something that Sedgwick County is hoping that we remember to comply with statute, which means by the last day of every year, the cities must provide that resolution declaring the entire boundary, which would include the newly annexed land. So if this item is tabled, I don't know what council's decision will be on tabling item B. Item B truly does need to be completed by the end of the year. Once that's completed per statute, that information is then forwarded to other parties as well.
Could item B be modified to exclude the parcels listed in item A and be approved that way?
That motion could be made. The resolution in item B would need to be amended. It would need to remove those items. We don't have that for council tonight.
Point of clarity. So these are the only two annexations we had throughout the year, the streets. So I guess what our current boundary is would remain the same if we wouldn't. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we had no other annexations. So
Well,
the way it's written now,
I knew we'd done some recently, but it's been more than a year.
it's been more than a year.
Okay.
So
well,
that was kind of
our.
our concern with these two items being tied together. It's either one or if we don't act on one, I would probably suggest not acting on two, and then we can remain the same boundaries, Maria, if that's the way I envision it.
Do we need to publish them again since if they don't change? I'm sure we could republish what we did last year if we needed to publish something, but do we even need to do that if they don't change?
You're talking about item B.
I'm talking about item B.
Right. Just want to be clear.
We do publish.
Yeah.
We can publish on the official city newspaper, which would be our website.
Okay, I just was curious if we had to actually publish every year. Yeah, I'm going to make a motion to table the ordinance annexing the 3 tracts of land.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. David. Is that correct? Okay, I want to make sure I heard it correctly. Thank you. To table, and that will not need a roll call vote. We can do that on just a voice vote. If there's any other discussion. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. And if I understand correctly, we need to then go on and table item B because it doesn't change anything if we don't do A.
I don't think we even need to table it. I think we just deny it because there's no change.
If you wouldn't mind tabling it so that if this comes back up, we can just bring the boundary resolution back up.
Well, we'd have to have a special meeting to do it this year. If we
Well-
do it in January, it would wait till December of next year to.
Maria's got the
Right.
statute up.
Right. And per the statute, it states that the governing body of any city shall declare by resolution the entire boundary of the city. And then, of course, file a certified copy with the county clerk, with the register of deeds, and that this should be done no later than the end of the year.
Is that every year?
Do we have a copy of last year's resolution that we could pull up real quick and just do that?
I was going to ask the same thing, is whether or not we could just adopt the former or the current one for the new year, just in
It-
Word, just to amend this.
It must be done in any year in which any territory has been added to or excluded from the city.
So shouldn't need to do it then.
The only response would be from Sedgwick County, who would probably say that per their resolution and per statute, that land is being annexed by Bel Aire. But I understand what you're saying.
But it's still in process.
Mhm.
It's not completed.
And Maria,
Lynn-
you might talk a little bit about the legal side of things because
Sure. Lynn
I-
Packer, who came to give a presentation, basically explained that the annexation was complete, that the action was taken by Sedgwick County. Sedgwick County formalized that in a resolution. There are no other options for the city of Bel Aire per statute. Of course, Bel Aire could contest and take that to court. And as you can see in the staff report, per statute, the cities are required to annex those highways into the city limits based upon the facts which are met in this specific situation. Now, I understand the council would like more time to try to work out some type of a cost share agreement with the city, but please know that cost share agreement will not take away the requirement of the council to comply with the resolution formalized by Sedgwick County.
So a couple questions there. One is, if actions of the county, unilateral actions of the county make this an automatic annexation, why is it even on the city council's agenda? If it's unilateral, then they've already done their stuff. But I suspect that's not the case. The way I read the resolution from the county, it was a resolution for Bel Aire to take some action. So I don't think it's unilateral. The other is, I've been trying to work with the Sedgwick County for a long time on this. This is not something that just came up in the last couple of months. I had this discussion with Mr. Lynn Packer in February of last year. So this is not a new issue. But I haven't been able to get any discussion with the members of Sedgwick County. So now I've got an appointment to have that discussion. So hopefully we can get something done there.
In response, Mayor Benaj, if the city of Bel Aire has not, taken on any new land or excluded any new land, then statute would not require a resolution to be filed by the end of the year.
Right. Okay.
I've got another question about is there a time frame that we're required to do that in? Because I don't remember seeing anything about that.
There is no time limit. It simply says that per statute, if you're talking about the annexation,
Yes.
the statute 12520 subsection E references cities are required to annex the highways into the city limits, but it does not give a timeline. It just simply states it is a statutory obligation.
So at this point, by tabling this, we are not doing anything illegal. We're just putting off when we finally decide that we have to agree with the county if we decide that's what we have to do.
I would agree. council's been very forward about the reason for tabling, which is this discussion that hasn't taken place. And I believe that this will more likely than not be resolved at the January 7 council meeting.
We shall see.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
Yeah, when I read the statute, it was not clear. In fact, it did not clarify, and the Sedgwick County gentleman also implied that it wasn't clear. So in their interpretation, which obviously they would do to their advantage, they would say, oh, it implies that, even though it doesn't say a city, it implies that. And I said, well, I'm reading it that it doesn't imply that. So we're on equal footing. And he said they would have to bring it to the state legislature to be more definitive on what it means. So, and I definitely see it as unfair to a city, and we're already on the side of Rock Road up there. You can't see it, but we're covering Sedgwick County side and our side. So we've already got at least a mile, I believe. I'm not sure if that's a mile, but that we're covering everything. So we've already done that. This is about equal amount, 1 mile, where it's Sedgwick County on one half and us on the other. So they would have that and own both sides, and we'd own this other piece, which we've already annexed. So, I mean, right now we're kind of at 50-50. So they just want it to be all on us. And I don't think it's to our benefit. And I don't know why our citizens should pay half of what these roads are expensive, as we know from 53rd Street. So I sure hate to say, yeah, let's just go ahead and cover it. I don't see why that is the best interest for our citizens.
Okay. So we have tabled that annexation. So I think we're done with that. So then the question becomes, if the boundaries did not change, do we even have to take an action on B?
If the boundary has not changed, then a resolution does not need to be completed. From what I understand, there's been no other land added or excluded in 2024.
So then I think we should deny that resolution at this point in time until we actually change our boundaries. I think it's the proper action to take. So I will make a motion to deny the resolution declaring the boundaries of the, changing the boundaries of the city of Bel Aire.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Welch to deny the resolution and a second by Mr. David. Any further discussion?
I did have one question. Maria, would it be better to remove this from the agenda or deny it? Is there a reason for us to just remove if we're just keeping what's on file?
And it's no different than
I think
tabling
it
it,
works
isn't it?
out to the same thing.
I'm just double checking with the lawyer.
I want to clarify the motion. Is the motion to deny based upon the fact that territory has not been added to or excluded from the city?
Correct.
If you word it that way, that directly is using phrases from the statute. So if that helps at all.
Yeah, I came close to that, but I didn't get it all spit out quite right, I guess.
Motion to deny the resolution declaring the entire boundary of the city of Bel Aire as territory has not been added to or excluded from the city of Bel Aire in 2024.
Okay. If that's the way you want to word it, I will amend my motion to use those words.
I'll second as amended.
I just want to clarify one thing. So the resolution declared, there was nothing in our packet showing the new outlines that I saw with these areas drawn into it, like a full-on map of the city of Bel Aire. I don't think that was in our packet, was it? Okay. So, so with item B, nothing has been defined of, there's no reason to table this and kick it down the road, is there, that's been published showing those new areas if they were to be approved. I guess what I'm getting at is, would it be better to table it? I'm not convinced that it's not better to just table it.
You have a first and a second, so open discussion.
Yeah, we're having a discussion. We have a motion on the table.
And if you would table it, that's an option as well to keep them together. Then if they come back together on January 7th, you'll be using the legal description, which includes the 3 tracts of land that are included in the annexation from Sedgwick County.
Okay, but if we do that, we don't have to publish in January. We just have to publish by the end of 2025, correct?
In the spirit of the statute, it would more likely than not be best to publish at that time.
Just saying we
January
don't have
7th.
to, is what I was. So we could keep them together or we could keep them separate, whichever.
Keeping them together would probably be cleaner. That way you can address both parts of what you've learned in the conversation.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
couldn't we just bring it back in January if we decide to annex?
It could be put back on the agenda.
Right.
Because it's a different matter.
Right.
Yeah. Any other discussion? We have a motion on the table to deny this resolution, and it's been amended to include the statement as territory has not been added or excluded from the city of Bel Aire in 2024. Any additional discussion? If not, I'm going to call for a vote. I'm hearing no discussion, so all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Go on item C. This is a contract for work order 2413. In 2022, the city council accepted 3 vacant lots from the developer of Skyview with plans to build a new park. And in 2023, the city council issued an RFP for park design and construction, but received only 1 proposal with a total cost of $672,000. After further discussion in 2024, the council decided to pursue a phased approach to reduce cost. The first step will focus on obtaining construction drawings, which are necessary for the next step of issuing an RFP for playground equipment and construction services. So staff is available to answer questions. I see Mr. Henry's at the podium, so I think he's going to try to answer questions.
I think you did a good job of describing it.
You wrote the words, so.
I don't think we want Marty or myself out there with our thumbs trying to figure out where to put a playground. This is a pretty standard 3 lots. Not a lot of site work is going to be needed, but we do need some professional help to get to a point to where we can issue an RFP to a playground builder. And some of the elements that we'll bring back with this contract will be, a little better layout than you've seen in the past. Parking, where do we need electrical somewhere? Those types of things are going to be answered with a lot of this. So pretty standard stuff, but I'm here for questions if you have any.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt.
So this park, I believe, is way back inside of a development for homes. And so all of the access for the people in Bel Aire, I think, they'd have to go all the way through the whole development to get there. So it just seems like we're subsidizing a park for a developer to help them sell homes. But really it's not as much for the city of Bel Aire. I know it's very helpful for that developer, but is that really the right approach for us to, because I think if we're doing things for the city and doing parks for the city, I guess I understand it, but is every developer now going to give us a little bit of land and then we're going to spend $1 million to update it for parks? I like parks. I think that's great. It's just, I'm wondering, are we establishing a decent balance here of, I know we're helping developer to sell lots and sell homes, but is it really in the best interest of the citizens of Bel Aire to support parks that are pretty much buried into a development and they really going to have a hard time getting to them? Or is it, if it was a more central area, maybe I understand. So I don't know. I'm just curious about your.
So my thought on this is that Uh, We have absolutely zero parks east of Rock Road in Bel Aire. And this is an opportunity to get a park east of Rock Road in Bel Aire. We do not currently, I'm hoping someday we have some sort of a plan ordinance that requires developers to provide rooms for parks in their developments. But we had a developer actually right out refuse to add a park to their development when I requested that they do that, because we have no ordinance that says they have to do that. So I am appreciative of this developer providing these 3 lots. I get that it doesn't feel like they're all that centrally located, or located so they're available. But the reality is that property south of there, well, it looks like ponds and lakes.
Right.
That's the Terra Verde development. And someday, I think, I don't know when, he's going to get around to it. There's a developer there that wants to put apartments or duplexes. I don't know what his current plans are, but he wants to put some housing in there. And another developer is already moving forward with some lots there. I don't remember that corner there that he's putting those lots on, but he's going to start development of those probably the next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, so to kind of answer your vision question, and the other thing is phase 2 and 3 of our east-west sidewalk project ends at Skyview Park. So it's going to run clear across all the way across east-west of the city, and the end point is where I'll just point it out, where
Okay.
the park is planned to be located. This is a reserve down here
Okay.
that owned by the city, as well as, and I don't know if you're talking about this area here, Jim, but
Just,
this area here has got a plat or going to be developed in next year as well. So we're not talking one developer, we're talking several different developers, and I understand the concern, and
so you're implying the sidewalk project
Mhm.
will connect this kind of to the rest of the city? Well, that's perfect.
rest of the
It's
city.
a
Yep.
sidewalk bike path is what
Yep.
we have proposed.
That's a part of
Okay.
the bike ped plan.
Yeah, there's a 3-phase plan
Okay.
Yep.
been
Excellent.
proposed to
All right. Well, that's
WAMCO on
good.
that.
So that's a
Yeah.
great answer instead of having this.
And
little-
you know, and
Park
this is
project.
getting a little deeper. I was on a call the other day. Some cities are starting to look at some sort of fee on each permit that helps support parks, roads, those types of things. Andover's had it for several years. On the flip side, what you'll hear in January is, you know, the developers are worried about a lot of different costs that are coming up. So every time we do this, we're going to get this. So it's going to be a fun discussion in January with our comp plan. But this project kind of came about as, the local developer really wanted to have a park in that particular area because, as the mayor said, we don't have anything. And frankly, with the park and rec master plan, we probably need to look at a lot of this, because if you think of all our parks are little neighborhood parks.
They are. They are. And that's why I was kind of bringing it up. Here we go. We're going forward, but it sounds like it's going to be interconnected.
Yep.
I really look forward to that. That's great.
Ted, I also did want to make a comment about the history of this, because I've been around, and I think most of on council probably remember this. The developer originally wanted to donate 3 lots that were sort of more in the middle of this housing development, and it ended up switching to accommodate sort of more of a comprehensive master plan with the bike ped plan, and I think it just made more sense for him. And so there has been some planning and thinking about how that would benefit the city. So I do appreciate the process. I agree with your comments about the balance of it being a neighborhood park versus a city park. And I think we've gotten close to accomplishing probably as close as we could on this. But I did have one question while we're on the topic. I just mentioned permit fees. I think I've asked before in the past if developers want to have neighborhood parks, is the cost of a park allowed to be reimbursed through special taxes? I just want to ask that just for the public to understand. Developers have their own choices of how they want to build their neighborhood, and the city has some control over that because of policy and ordinance. But if we don't have a policy or ordinance, we can't enforce it. But that's another question I've asked, and I'd like to ask it again just to understand for developers and for the public how that would look if somebody wanted a park in their development.
Correct. Yeah. You can add a local park to the specials in the benefit district, and that's what you would do if that's pursue. However, that would go from, as you know, dollars and cents. You go from a $250 a month special to $300, and that's where the developer has to weigh the costs and benefits of that. But there's a lot of work to be done on open spaces and parks throughout our city. And I think we're going to tackle a lot of that with first the comp plan, which leads some policy, which leads our CIP, which leads our park and rec plan. So I think as we see all these new houses popping up, and I know everybody's seen the plats with just straight houses, and we get a little, oh boy, we're going to need some open spaces. So I think we're in the works, but we're not quite there yet.
I mean, one of the things I brought that up for is there's other ways of funding it. There's choices to be made, but the negative to that is it's not a city park. That would be an HOA owned park and managed. And then the rest of the city can't get it. So if the goal is we would like to have parks, we value parks and we want them sort of equally spaced out, that's a city thing. We need to control that. If we're not into that and that's not a value, then we could revert back towards, having developers do it. So there's kind of a balance there, I guess is what I wanted to say while we're on the topic.
I do think there is an HOA that has a park over in near the Farmstead area, but I don't know which
Yes,
HOA
we
that
have
is.
Heights has one.
Bel Aire Heights has
Yeah,
it.
it's an
Okay.
HOA.
Okay. That is a private park, right?
Theoretically.
Well,
Other people use it.
okay.
It's not locked down.
No,
Good.
no lockdown.
All right.
Goats.
Okay,
Ted.
so any further discussion on this item?
I'm going to make a motion to approve work order number 24-13 of the master services agreement with PEC for construction drawings for Skyview Park in the amount not to exceed $17,500 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Dean. Any other questions or discussion? None? Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. On item D, so this is the fee schedule discussion. So every year we look at the fee schedule and it's being presented with minor updates for 2025. And Barry Smith, the Director of Finance, is here to answer any questions. And if you could reiterate our email discussion just a little bit, just give some high level about the 2.5% credit card charge so that there's a clear understanding of what we're doing there. Okay.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Like the mayor said, this is our fee schedule for 2025 that's being proposed this evening. There was extensive work done on it last year, so thankfully there wasn't a whole lot to update for 25. So thank you, Ted, for doing that. But there was 3 minor changes so far. We'll start with the planning and zoning ones first. We just added on the firework display permit to the fee schedule. The fee was already approved through code and ordinances, but we're just adding it to the schedule, which then bumped down that engineering one for planning and zoning. The big one we're adding this year was that credit card service fee at 2.5%. I know we talked about it a little bit at our previous workshops and then our last council meeting on the possibility of creating that fee and passing along the fee to the customers. So our utility is fully functioning and fully recovering those costs. Currently, to date in 2024, with our current processor, we average about 4.3 to 4.5% in a credit card fee that the city just absorbs and pays ourselves.
Wow.
So from January to October, that's totaled just over $126,000. That's been charged to our utilities for paying those credit card fees we've absorbed internally. Good news with our new ERP system is that because of our city purchasing power, we get economies of scale when it comes to these type of situations. So with Chase and our contract, we're being charged a 2% processing fee moving forward. Now, on top of that 2% processing fee, there are merchant fees as well from Visa, MasterCard, Discover, based upon the transaction type. How are you using your card? Are you tapping it? Are you inserting it? Are you signing it? Is there a code on the back? And those fees just vary from card to card. So in order to try and capture all that, that's why we're proposing that 2.5% to make sure we're capturing all that. And as we move forward month to month, we'll consistently monitor that and make sure we're not over collecting and make sure we're also not under collecting those fees when it comes to that. So there's a little brief history on that. But other than that, the fee schedule is the same as 2024, just with these minor additions.
Can you go back to, you said that there were some fees that were going to be in an ordinance?
Not the
Currently are.
firework display permit. Code already authorizes us to charge that fee. We're just adding to the fee schedule, so it's on there.
Right, so
That's all that was.
Why I asked that is because we got another agenda item here, because we got fees in a different table and in an ordinance. Is this going to be a problem?
We hope not. We hope we're getting
Well, that's
rid of
why I'm
that
asking
problem.
this now, because it
We
seems
hope
like,
we're getting out of that problem.
well, then do we need to change that ordinance?
I'm sorry. We are on item D, right?
Yes.
We're on
What,
item D
Let's
right
stay
now,
on
yes.
item D.
So
Only
my question though is that we have fees in an ordinance for fireworks, and we're adding the fees to a table of fees. So we're going to have it in two places.
It's on page 64.
where else will it be other than page 64?
It's in the ordinance.
It's in an existing ordinance, which isn't part of our packet because we're not changing the ordinance.
Okay. Let me review that ordinance.
Well, my real question is there a problem because it's in two places?
No, as long as it's consistent
Yeah.
with the ordinance.
Okay, then to the next question, should it be in the ordinance? Should we revise the ordinance so it's not in there so that we can just update the fee table when we want to change this?
Good. To answer it, that's what we're trying to move forward with most of our ordinances that I can recall. But Maria, Mike, can.
With the ordinance regarding fireworks, I see what you're saying. It's listed, it specifically states what their elements are, what the penalty would be, what the fee is. That needs to remain because that is exactly what is used in municipal court when the judge reviews the case, makes a decision. It provides the guidance. If the fee is being put into a schedule, from what I understand, that was trying to be consistent, putting a lot of information together for staff
Yeah.
so that
Just
they
so it's
could
all in
use
one
it as
place.
a guidance tool instead of having to go to the code every single time to find what that fee is. I thought it was to be more of a helpful tool versus overriding anything that's in an ordinance. So it's
I've got
okay.
some heartburn with that. If you're using it as a tool, there's no reason that it should be before this body, that schedule, if it's just a tool. If all the guiding charges are elsewhere in our ordinance and codes, this fee schedule should not be on this agenda.
Right. And
But I
think-
don't think that's the case. Okay? I think the case is almost all of these refer to this schedule. And I think that to be consistent with what we're doing, we should update the fire code and get the fees out of that code and refer to this schedule. And that way, when fees need to be updated, they're updated by the schedule and you don't have inconsistency between the schedule and the ordinance.
Yeah, and that would include the fines that we're going to talk about. Well, I guess that's in this too. That would include the fines and everything. We should just refer from the ordinance then, I think, to the fee schedule and say as currently stated in the fee schedule instead of specific dollar amounts in the ordinance.
I wasn't aware that that was the intent, was to remove fines from ordinances and put into the fee schedule. I can research that further, but for this specific tonight, I wasn't aware of that.
Well, I'm still conflicted because it's in two places. I think we should only have these dollar amounts in one place. So we either change one thing and we're done. I don't think we should have to change two things to fix this. And I think that's kind of what Ted's proposing, is that we
And
put
I-
all these into schedules so that we don't have to change ordinances every year.
And I think the intent is well taken. And I think maybe it doesn't stop the action tonight. It highlights the importance of having all fees in one spot or all fees in the ordinance, one or the other. I would presume all fees in one spot is a lot better of a solution than you're not, like, as the mayor said, it's a tool.
I agree with that. Do we think all fees are in this table then? Can we go clean
I
our
mean,
ordinance?
without doing, I think as we move forward, we will continue to look for these and add like we were doing tonight, and then reassess the ordinance if that's the case.
Well, okay, so my next thing is then, if we pass this tonight, I think we should update the ordinance at the next council meeting to reflect that we're using this fee schedule.
We'll do some research on the fireworks display permit and engineering. I believe that was the two.
Please do.
We will.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on item D?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean?
I did have a question. Barry,
Mhm.
I know I reached out to you, and just for the sake of public benefit, I know a lot of folks will look to water and sewer rates. That's something that impacts them probably more than anything else in the city is the utility costs that are being charged to them. Can you remind us, I know reading through the packet, it just said update per utilities policy. Can you update us on what that policy is and sort of how that's factored every year?
Yep. So on the utility fee increase section there, it does state those resolutions that did authorize those, and it is just an annual 3% across the board for water and sewer charges each year on those. So they've all been increased to 3%.
Thank you.
And that's effective January 1, correct? If there's no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I'm going to make a motion to adopt a resolution concerning service license and permit fees within the corporate limits of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Welch. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Move on to item E. This is considering ordinance establishing compensation for the mayor and city council. So this item is no change from current pay for the mayor or city council. We have been paid these amounts for several years. It appears there are some issues with conflicts between the city code and past ordinances. As I understand, this updated city code should incorporate city ordinances approved by city code updates, but I do not fully understand that process. So I'm going to ask the city attorney to explain this reason for this, and we can discuss from there. Ms. Schrock.
This was brought to my attention because there was a question about potentially increasing compensation for the mayor and council. First thing I did was go back to the ordinances and look and see what is showing. The last ordinance that I could locate was Ordinance 477 back from 2009. It references compensation for the mayor and council. I could not locate any other ordinances. Consequently, I put this together for staff administration because this was a discussion that council wanted to have about increasing compensation.
Okay, and that gets right back to the question I just asked on the last one. We now will have a dollar amount in two different places.
I don't know the history of that.
Okay. So if you look up the code, it points to the salary schedule, what we're talking about next. If you look at the code, the ordinance reference in the code goes to this ordinance that we're updating currently. So when they codified the code, it pointed two different directions. We're cleaning up the ordinance.
So can we clean the ordinance up farther and point it back to the schedule?
And Maria, is that something that would be a question, yeah, for legal and if that's possible.
The ordinances that I've looked for the city of Bel Aire have all included the salary amount comparable to the city of Derby has stipends and the amounts. Other ordinances for other jurisdictions that state what the mayor or council will be earning as any type of compensation. If council wants to know, which I did not know this, but if council wants the ordinance to be updated in such a way that the amount is not listed, I can research that further. But the only reason I brought this up is because there was a request for how will the ordinance or how will the compensation be shared? How will it be memorialized? And I went back and found that we did not have an ordinance since 2009. But I can definitely research that further for council.
Okay, thought I read that we had an ordinance from 2019 that said, that specified the current 3,000 and 6,000. Did I,
There's no
did I
ordinance for that.
hallucinate, dream? What?
Yeah, that would be the time of the change, and there is no ordinance on that time. So would be the cleanup to that.
I think it was done on a motion.
It was done on a motion with the pay schedule. You see now where the confusion lies.
So we've got two different amounts right now,
Well,
which is going back to, I think we should clean this ordinance up so that it
Yep.
doesn't require us to pass two different things to accomplish one goal.
understandable. And I think we can do that, but I think we still need to pass this ordinance tonight just to get us back to square one. And then we can refresh the ordinance at January 7th if need be.
Well, but if we want to do the raise on the schedule, we need to change the dollar amounts in this ordinance.
Correct. So I would act now on the ordinance, and then we can come back in and clean up the ordinance and point it back to the salary schedule. But right now, the current ordinance is out of date.
Maria, I have a quick question. So if this is not in an ordinance as a dollar number and it is left in just this fee schedule, when the fee schedule gets adjusted, how do we keep it from automatically adjusting the mayor and the council? I think that might have a conflict with not having it stipulated in the ordinance. I'd like your legal opinion on that.
Something similar actually happened with Wichita not too recently, where a council member stated they did not want an increase in their compensation, but then there was confusion because something was included in a pay schedule. I think that is why, to keep everything separated between staff and the elected, that usually there's an amount in the ordinance, which is consistent with other jurisdictions.
Well, if that's the case, we should drop it off the fee schedule, the pay schedule.
Yeah, if you guys would like that, we'd want to update the code language and drop it off the fee schedule. Always two ways to skin this cat.
Yeah.
See how
There's nothing that says a fee schedule has to be across the board increased whenever you reconsider it, a pay schedule or anything like that. You can always say, we're going to do section A, we're going to give everybody in section A a 5% raise and everybody in section B gets nothing.
Correct. And that's what has happened right now with this current schedule that Ted's proposing, is there's no increase for the council members or the mayor, but everybody else in the city got a 3% raise if we approve it.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, just to throw my 2 cents in, I like the idea of having it, as you said, memorialized in this way, because I consider this a little bit unique because first of all, we're having a discussion about how often does this happen? When was it done? But we're also voting to give ourselves raises. And I just like the idea of that being sort of codified in a different way. So there's a clear line of what happened and when. And that's my understanding of why this is a little bit separate issue with the ordinance, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so. does
Okay, so
somebody have an
further
idea what they're gonna
discussion.
do?
What are we going to change these to, or are we going to change these amounts? And there were several ideas at the workshop that came up when we talked about this last. From nothing to fairly generous.
Yeah.
Not,
Well, I think there was 26% inflation since 2009 when this was enacted, correct?
23, but yeah.
2019.
Since 2019. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so it's been even longer, but that's okay.
So it's been a few years.
Well, my proposal
Five.
would be 300 a month for the council members, which would put it at 3,600. And I would do at least the same increase for the mayor, maybe more. And I don't know if you want to do that in dollars or percentage. If it's dollars, then it's another $600 a year. And if it's percentage, I don't know what the answer is. So it'd be 50 more a month. I think you suggested 100 more a month.
Yeah, and then I wanted to increase the mayor more. Just because of the involvement required.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
I think Councilmember Welch made as good of a case as you can make for this. It's been 5 years, and it's been a wild few years since I've been here. We've had Integra, we've had Woodlawn, we've had a new city manager, a new city attorney, CCUA. Everybody has put their time in, not just here, but on special committees and on CCUA to address these issues, and long nights with executive sessions. These things can't go on the consent agenda. And I was somewhere between neutral and against after our workshop, but I just can't get myself to the threshold to support it. It kind of feels like it's right. Nobody's going in the hole. It feels right that mayor would make twice as much because he does have additional duties to as a figurehead and to represent at different events and meetings. And it has been busy, but then, after tonight and after CCUA Thursday night, we're going to have a decent break where we're not going to have a whole lot to do for 3 weeks. And so anytime we go to mileage for a League of Municipalities meeting or anything like that, we're covered for that. So it just feels right to me. I don't think it should be zero like a lot of school boards. I mentioned the 93% jump in Topeka. I think, that's too high, but then I saw their list of, that affects their ability to hold a job. This is not our living wage or anything like that. So and so for those reasons, I don't know that inflation really applies to this stipend in my mind. So I think I'm going to support just leaving it where it's at.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
I think I'll just repeat what I said at the workshop, that, if there's not, we've got a great council. It doesn't seem, the current pay scale doesn't seem to be keeping us from getting good council and mayor. So I don't see a reason to increase it. I also mentioned that I do think the mayor does a lot more closer to a real half-time job. I would look at that, and I would also look at maybe doing it at 20 for 25. So I'm not voting for myself a raise, but that's other than that, I'm fine leaving it alone.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'm fine leaving it as it is. I think I've said why several times before, so.
There's going to be no perfect year to do it. Anytime you vote on this, some of the council's going to be up for election real soon.
Mhm.
So I don't buy that as an argument.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would support $50 for the council members. And then 100 for the mayor per month as an additional. I know this is always a touchy topic, but
You,
I think they don't feel there's value. I just mean, it's really, obviously not a living wage or anything like that, but I think it's just more of a principle. And then it's just to try and catch up just with where it was before, just to at least stay even. I think that seems reasonable. So that's it. That's my comment.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'm going to move we approve an ordinance establishing the mayor's annual salary of 6,000 and the council's annual salary of 3,000, effective on 12/18/24, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Dean to approve the ordinance as, or the motion as written, and a second by Mr. David. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
So I have 3 in favor and 2 opposed. This motion carries with Mr. Welch and Mr. Schmidt opposed. Move on to item F. This is approving updates to the City of Bel Aire pay scale. So during the 2025 budget process, the City Council approved a 3% cost of living adjustment for all full-time and part-time employees. And the updated pay scale in your packet reflects these changes. Barry Smith, Director of Finance, is here to answer your questions.
I'm going to make a motion to accept updates to the city council Bel Aire pay scale.
I have a motion by Mr. Welch to accept the pay scale. Do we have a second for that motion? We can have a discussion after we get the second, but
Second.
We'll hold discussion. Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Welch and a second by Ms. Hamburg. And is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David?
I thought we talked about taking out the council member.
It
Pay
still
from that.
shows the same amount as we're currently getting.
I know, but I thought we wanted to separate it totally so we didn't ever have a conflict if those two were adjusted.
That wasn't the reason I knew we got a while ago. It's just in there so people can see it.
That was the discussion on all those previous ones that you didn't want things in 2 places.
Well, we did have that discussion. You're absolutely right. And I tend to agree with you about that issue. So, okay. So if there is no other discussion, we do have a motion to accept this updates as written. We're ready to go for a vote.
I hope so. We got a second.
Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
I have 3 ayes and 2 nays, and those are Mr. Dean and Mr. David on the nays. That motion carries 3-2. Next item on the agenda is executive session. I don't have any need for an executive session unless somebody else does. I don't know of any, so we can move on to discussion of future
Mr. Mayor.
issues.
I did want to make one point before we move on. I voted against that because of the reason that Mr. David brought up about removing our items. I do support our staff and I do support that pay increase. I think it's well deserved. So just wanted to make that comment.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
ditto on that. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Discussion of in future issues. So I don't have anything in particular, but I did want to tell council I did receive a couple of Christmas cards at my desk. One was from the police. Says from happy holiday season from you and your families from Bel Aire Police Department. So there is one card there. And I also received a card from our Lieutenant Governor, David Toyan, and it was addressed to me and I can't remember, me and council, I think it was addressed to. So just want to let you know that I didn't forget about those things. It just didn't get to them. Okay. So, and if you're certainly welcome to look at them or keep them if you like. So, all right. Any other discussion of future issues we need to bring up? And if there are none, we can move on to item 14, adjournment.
A motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Welch,
Second.
Second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0.
Man, you're busy today.